guys, Anne-Marie here with another organizational project this week. Today's video focuses on integrating my dies into my stamp storage. So I use my dies and my stamps kind of in a similar fashion. I consider them both tools. I organize them by theme in similar categories, and I even store them in a similar fashion with labeled Avery Elle pockets. So it only made sense to me to finally put the two systems together, and so that's what you're going to see the beginning of today. If you haven't seen these before, my organizational videos, I show a kind of a long form, sped up video of me working on the project. So you can also pull out a project that you're working on and we can work on them together at the same time. In addition though, I'll pop in from time to time to explain something that's going on the screen. And if you would rather just skip to those parts, there will be timestamps in the description box below. So you can just jump to where I'm talking if you want. All right, so first I just gathered all of my dies together. My storage system for my dies had been slipping for a while. I hadn't been filing things back. I'd stuffed a lot of just like original packaging in. Things were just a complete mess. I had some down in the basement. I had some upstairs in my Raskog. I moved them several times, was losing little bits of them, would just stuff random stuff on my desk into a box to get rid of it. Things like that. So my dies were everywhere. So the first thing I had to do was go through and collect all my dies, and spoiler alert, I didn't find them all. But I started with what I had, and I'm going to start by sorting them into categories. You're also going to see some hot foil plates and embossing folders as we go, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as we go, but spoiler alert too, they also end up getting integrated into the system. All right, so I'm gonna step out for a little bit, turn the music on, and I will come back later. So I mentioned I was sorting these into categories. I was just kind of going by what I came across and what I remembered of my kind of old category system, but I wanted to sync these up with my stamps more explicitly. So I'm pulling up my stamp spreadsheet on my computer, and then I'm just going to notate the different categories. I will have those down in the description box below as well. So you can look there if you want to see what my categories were. But I had things like backgrounds and journaling and cards and kids and just really broad kind of categories. So, I mentioned I stored my stamps and my dies similarly. They were both in Avery Elle pockets, but my dies I stored on magnetic sheeting, vent covers to be specific, and my stamps were on Mylar. So I had to buy more magnetic sheeting. Apparently, I've bought more dies in the past few years. And so I'll put a link in the description box below to what somebody else recommended to me that I ended up buying. They come in 8.5 by 11 pieces, like a full sheet of paper, and then they're adhesive. So if you wanted to do this differently, like sticking it to, I don't know, a folder and a binder or something like that, you could certainly do that. I wanted to stick with my pockets. So I just chopped these down to A2 card size and left the adhesive covering, like the wax paper backing on, and just use them that way. For some of my die sets, they were too big to fit on just the front, and so I would fit a few on the back if I needed to. And some of them that worked, and for some of them, they fell right off. So I'm sure it had something to do with like the metal content in the die itself. But I tried to get away with one piece when I could, and when I couldn't, I did too. so now I'm going to use my label maker. I love my little label maker. It brings me joy. But this is not like the cheapest way I've ever labeled these. I kind of really loved what I did before, but I love being able to just sit at my desk and do this whenever I want to, one by one, as I have time more. So I don't know, your mileage may vary, but I'm using a label maker. Before, I just printed it and regular on my printer in a readable type. And then I cut them out, cut them down to size, and then I put the adhesive on the side with the text, and then directly adhered it like on the inside of the envelope. So you could see it through the envelope and it would be kind of very securely adhered. With these, of course, you've got the backing, you have to peel it off, and then they can go on the front though, and they're a lot thinner, so they stay better this way than it would have with paper labels. But just if you're looking for a cheaper alternative to a label maker, it worked a treat. I really loved it. Our printer's it's in the basement now, and it's kind of a hassle to use it, and this is way easier for me. So this is what I did. Also, on my stamps, I tried to do the whole project at once and do one whole step of the process for all of my stamps. And I got so burnt out and discovered I'm just really not as organized as I want to be, even in my organizing. So what I tried this time was doing each step for each category. So I sorted them all into categories at once, but then I went through all of them into the packaging, and I went through just the ones in that category to do the packaging. And then I went through all of them in that category to do the labels. And then I'm going to move on to another category. So that worked a lot better for me. It was smaller chunks. I was able to kind of eat that elephant in an easier way. So organizational projects are a great time for me to go through and kind of mindfully think about how I use things and if I enjoy using them, if they're maybe difficult for me or frustrating, or if I'm just tired of them and ready to pass them on to someone else to love. And there were a few things that I found in this process where I was ready to let it go. This gingerbread house fold card thing was one of those that I decided it was time to let it go. I'd made quite a few with it last year and I enjoyed it, but it's time to let somebody else love it. So I love organizational projects just for the opportunity to reflect a little bit like that and maybe sell some stuff, get rid of it, or pass it on to just anybody that will love it. You might have noticed labeling my Sizzix steel rule dies as well. So I incorporated them into the system too, even though they're bigger and thicker and bulkier and not in the Avery Elle pockets. They fit in my bins, so why not? It was just really going to drive me batty if I had them stored separately. That just really kind of defeats the purpose. I like to keep all of my similar things together. had finally reached the point where I was out of the pre-cut Avery Elle envelopes. I'd found a stash of more, thankfully, so I didn't have to order anymore. But I did need to cut the tops off. I don't like to have the tops. I don't think there's too much of a purpose to them because everything is adhered, to the magnets, or with my stamps to the Mylar. It just doesn't need, I don't know. I don't think they're necessary, and I hate having to open them every time I want to use something. So I'm cutting off the tops here for all of my envelopes. So we're going to wrap up this video today. There'll be at least one more, possibly two, but we'll talk more next time about hot foil plates and embossing folders. In general, they're tools. I use them in similar ways, store them in similar ways. But I just want to talk a little bit more specifically about embossing folders, and we'll start with those next time. So I hope you have a great week. I will see you on Friday for the weekly wrap up, and I hope you got something done and just had a chill, hang out, productive time. All right. Thanks for watching. Bye.